Today I'm going to talk to you about building the first universal data acceleration network. My name is Kent. Here's me and my two other co-founders, Professor Mira Mattard and Dr. Kishori Kalmer from MIT. Been in this space for the past 7-8 years since the ICO time. I actually started McKinsey Crypto DAO after McKinsey and been investing in this space after a couple years, started Optimum. And what do we do here? Well, before we get in, I have a question to ask you guys. Anyone here come into crypto to lose money? All right, that's a trick question to make sure that you guys are awake. Anyone here come into crypto to make money? All right, I see a couple hands. That's great. So here are some problems that we see in the blockchain space today. And later on, you'll see why I asked that question. Today's blockchains are really hitting some ceilings. And as we see more and more use cases coming on chain soon, we just heard about whether blockchain gaming is dead. Maybe there's some AI agents coming on chain. There are a lot of tokenized RWAs talks going on, and of course, perps is like everywhere in this space. So everything is pointing to the same thing, which is volume and demand will be big as more things are coming on chain. So how do we solve a problem that will fundamentally limit blockchain from going further? We're introducing our high-speed network, MUM P2P. So MUM P2P is a combination of our name, Optimum, MUM, and P2P, which is a P2P, a peer-to-peer communication protocol. It's effectively a fast networking protocol that can help nodes talk faster to each other. We can help L1, L2s become fast. We help validators, block builders, to communicate faster with each other. And we can help dApp builders, eventually users, to make their transactions fast. We have a live example on Ethereum testnet right now. And in the coming months, we're actually migrating onto Ethereum mainnet. What we have already proved is that we can deploy a network of nodes and communicate data among them under 100 milliseconds. And these nodes can be then plugged in to the rest of the network and help our customers who then communicate faster between themselves and send and receive blocks so that they can actually complete their task and help make Ethereum also faster. Here are some of our stats. We have been onboarding node operators over the past few months, and you can see the amount of TVL that these node operators are operating. And this is really a big market. It's about $60 billion that we're tapping into. Even when the market now crashed after these few years, we still are seeing over $20 billion of validator TVL among the validators. We have already signed the top 5 enterprise node operators for Ethereum, as well as 11 out of the top 15. And I'm sure you see many, many familiar names on the right-hand side, whether it's P2P, Everstake, All Nodes, and so on. We are, of course, also working with a number of partners locally in Korea in helping to bring this new effect to our Korean users and Korean partners. So why do they care about this, right? In the crypto world, speed is money. For our partners, when they are receiving blocks and sending blocks faster than before, this translates directly into higher uptime, which is one of the key KPIs for any node operators, and higher uptime translate into higher APY for the staking yield. And you might ask, why does it matter to you? Well, if you stake your token, maybe it's ETH, maybe it's others, there's a staking yield behind it. And you might have never wondered why is the yield 3% or 5 or 8 or whatever, depending on which chain it is, there's a reason behind it, right? So these validators actually get this yield from somewhere. There is a staking rewards that are, issued by the chain. They need to work hard to get there. They are currently usually not getting there. And that's because of the slow data movement. On the other hand, you might have also heard of the word MEV. MEV is something that is very important for the entire crypto ecosystem, but it's a very complicated problem. And again, the most important thing about MEV is speed. right? As a trader, you want to avoid your transaction gets sandwich attacked by others. As a validator, you want to make sure that you have a way of making MEV income and potentially share it with the stakers that are staking with you. And that's all the things that we are helping, right? There's a multi-stage APY gain for our partners, starting with validators. This is a live dashboard that we have right now. What is interesting about our product is that it can strictly only help. It can never make it worse. So what happens is that we connect our network to the existing validators. So it complements the networking layer that they are already receiving from the existing networking layer that Ethereum has, the default networking layer called libp2p. So you see this number here, 100%. It's a fluctuating number, but I'm showing a screenshot of 100%, of course, to make myself happy. But when you actually see it live, you will see it's fluctuating between 90 to 100. It's not that bad. So what does this mean? This means that if you are one of the node operator, if you are a node, you are listening to Ethereum network. On one hand, you are receiving the blocks from the existing networking layer. On the other hand, you are receiving the blocks from us, MUM-P2P. 9 out of the 10, and sometimes depending on your location, all the time, we are delivering to you the block faster than the existing networking layer. And that changes the whole game. Like you receiving the data faster helps you vote on time, creating more MEV rewards so that you can share with the stakers that stake with you, and eventually help the entire chain become faster and cheaper. So that translates easily into a business model that people can recognize. We create value, and we share it with our partners. Initially, it's pretty simple. Every time they use this, they pay a little bit. And as we expand, we're looking at many partners, many validators that are trying to get faster, but they are already faster than before. What do? They want to get faster and be faster than each other. That's when they can start to bid and have themselves running in this latency marketplace. And that's what we call a decentralized latency marketplace that we can enable. On one hand, there are customers, whether it's traders, validators, math searchers, or block builders. On the other hand, it's our network that makes this possible. It's the Optimum network that consists of what we call flex nodes. Flex nodes is a new term that we have coined. What are they? So flex nodes is the actual nodes that are powering Optimum network that really help the network to be a dynamic scaling network. The first part of the name, flex, suggests that it's flexible. So as a user, as a contributor, you can contribute your bandwidth flexibly. It can be your home internet, as you're not using. You contribute that, and you help make Optimum network faster. You can be a large node operator that are running yourself in a data center. When you don't have other things to do and you have spare capacity, again, you can contribute that to make the Optimum network faster, and that translates into the latency that I was talking to you just now. 2, it is permissionless. This network can be plugged into any blockchain permissionlessly by getting the validator to use it. 3, it's scalable. The more flex nodes there are, the faster the entire network becomes. And this really is a byline that we stand by, which is decentralized to scale. And here is how it roughly looks like. On top, it's any blockchain network. It could be Ethereum, it could be BNB, Solana, it can be Near, it can be other things. At the bottom, it's the Optimum network, made up of flex nodes. These flex nodes are spread out all over the world. And anyone who is contributing their bandwidth can help make data move fast. When a piece of data comes down from the proposer or any node, our network will capture it and then extremely quickly distribute it among our nodes. The current stats is suggesting that we can distribute these nodes in these data under 100 milliseconds to all our nodes all over the world. And that is something that the current networking layer could never achieve. And it creates at least a 10x difference in terms of the performance gap. And what does this mean to you as a trader, as a builder, and so on? Especially for the Korean community. One of the less known facts is that Korea as a place for geographic connectivity in terms of the internet is not as good as you thought. The higher tier ISPs on nearby countries is actually fighting for traffics very heavily. And that is actually part of the reason why some of the very popular chains that you're seeing these days, like Hyperliquid, has all its validators somewhere else, right? So I'm gonna do a little poll and see whether people know this, this little interesting knowledge. Ethereum, Solana, Hyperliquid. Let's take a little example, right? So let's say for Ethereum, do you know how many nodes there are in terms of active validators? Do you think it's in the range of hundreds of millions, or hundreds of thousands, in the thousands? So Ethereum has about hundreds of thousands of validators. And guess what it is for Solana, right? Do you think it's in range of hundreds of thousands? Or thousands? Or maybe hundreds? Or maybe just a few dozen? So for them, it's actually just a little bit over 1,000. And what about Hyperliquid? The boy that everybody's talking about these days. They have 10 validators. By the way, all collated in the same place in Tokyo, not other places. And these are all kind of like structural design questions that people would actually choose as they build their blockchain. And there are different trade-offs, right? Having all your validators in one place has its trade-off, as we have already seen some of the AWS and Google Cloud incidences in the past few months that have caused certain blockchains to go down. Base went down during the time when there was an AWS outage. Solana famously went down multiple times partly because of the decentralization issue. So why am I mentioning all that while I'm talking about Optimum? Remember last page I talked about Flex nodes allows the network to decentralize to scale. Up till today, the space has been kind of caught up with the problem of decentralization trilemma, where you're kind of like struggling between decentralization and speed and security. And Optimum allows it to be different. You can actually contribute your bandwidth, put your nodes anywhere, and for you guys, if you put contributor bandwidth for Korea, you can actually make connectivity for Korea faster and make your trades, your friends' trade faster and compete at a world scale. So we're building an ecosystem with all these tier 1 partners, whether it's with all the top node operators around the world, with the largest staking pools and DVT providers, or with the block builders and clients, and we're continuing to work with more and more ecosystem partners. Our mission, at this point, you have probably figured out, is to scale any chain. We want to build hundreds of thousands of Flex nodes that can help any blockchain become faster, and more chains means more usage and more value gets accrued to our network, which can be shared by the contributors of the network, which are our community holders. We have been traveling around the world, been in the news across all the top media. Here's my co-founder speaking on stage, Professor Miro Mattert, across all the top crypto conferences. And we want to meet you guys in our future community event as well. We have a growing, buzzing, engaged community. We have been organizing some of our hacknets across the US and Asia. And we are really building towards the universal data acceleration network. Everything that I have told you just now is only a starting point with this little bubble right at the bottom. It's MonP2P. It's only stage 1. And we're looking at Ethereum testnet migrating to Ethereum mainnet as we're speaking. We're also looking at doing it on more chains, whether it's BNB, Solana, or other chains, and expanding to more product. Data movement is where we started with MonP2P to help data move fast. In the future, we will help read and write data fast and store data cheaply. And that goes on to DRAM and DROM, and feel free to learn more about that on our website. One last thing. Before you leave this keynote, thinking that this is only about blockchain as it is today, I want to remind the blockchain is looking at more and more new use cases coming on, whether it's the AI agents that have been heavily discussed, or tokenizing RWAs, or just different types of perps and like DeFi chains that are spinning off. Everything is under the roof that we can support. We're looking at scaling any chains, and it is a huge market beyond the classic L1s that we are looking to help scale. Thank you so much. We are Optimum. We'd love to chat, and let me know if you want to discuss. Thank you.